Hello there. Hi, it's been a while. What's going on? Hey, let me ask you, have you ever found yourself wondering what a Gundam strategy game that wasn't filled with SD Gundam furries would look like?
What are you doing?
Sitting down, sir.
What, at the table?
Sterling.
Like people?
Sterling!
What? Look, he thinks he's people.
A mech game with a story, characters with voice dialogue, actual cutscenes, and levels. If so, have I got a game for you.
Looks to me like you were just waiting for us to show up. Sounds like something Wagner would do.
They took out the control tower.
Make sure they build this to the beginning of the war.
Switching to emergency jump. Everyone, get ready.
Roger that. The Durandal. It seems that they and I are destined to meet.
I think we all want the same thing. Do something great. Marry our sweetheart and have cute little kids. But most of us never realize those dreams.
Front Mission 4 is a turn-based mech RPG strategy game that lets you command a team of anywhere between 3, 6, and sometimes even more mechs at a time. It was released by Square Enix in Japan in 2003 for the PlayStation 2, and later released in North America the following year. Before going into battle, you will have the option of customizing your mechs, which in this world are known as Wanzers. While the customization options are not as deep as, say, Armored Core, they still offer some freedom of expression. I say some because, aesthetically, Wanzers were never made to look pretty. The design doctrine was intended for only one thing: fighting. Still, I have to say that their designs have a certain charm to them. They at least look a lot better than whatever this is.
What the fuck is that?
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
As you progress through the game, you will unlock more parts for your Wanzers, and even weapons and backpacks, with special abilities, all of which come with their own pros and cons. For example, if you want a Wanzer that will have a high chance of dodging enemy attacks, you'll likely be sacrificing armor and firepower. And if you want more armor and firepower, then you can expect the exact opposite. In any build you choose to make, you will be limited by what you can equip depending on what your Wanzer's power level is. The higher the power level, the more weight you can equip. This includes the weight of your mech's body parts and its weapons. And you have the option to customize all 6 Wanzers on your team. If this all sounds like it may be too much for you and all you want to do is jump into the action, you do also have the option of simply purchasing a complete Wanzer set for each pilot. In addition to customizing a team of 6 mechs, you're also able to level up each of their pilots. Each pilot will have their own specific traits that will add to their Wanzer's performance in battle. You can choose to invest your pilot's enhancement points into increasing the number of action points they will have per turn, the percentage chance they'll have at dodging an enemy attack, and even unlock certain skills and abilities. All their skills are limited by how much enhancement points they earn after each mission. In addition to the experience points they unlock after every mission and ranking up, you can also purchase additional skills and abilities later on in the game when you unlock the computer shop, which does cost in-game credits. The only downside is that even after purchasing these, you still need to spend enhancement points in order to use them. That may sound a little much or complicated, which, to be fair, I suppose it could be seen as such. But I think it's a lot less complicated than, say, how some of the in-game currencies for most free-to-play online service games that have multiple forms of currencies and that require different methods to obtain them. Here, just play the missions and battle simulations and you'll get both currencies. Unfortunately, this is where the game's biggest weakness comes to light, which is the amount of grinding you'll need to do in order to level up your pilots. And a certain level of grinding is required because unless you really want to make the game harder for yourself, you will need your pilots to learn a number of abilities and improve their stats in order to survive. The downside to grinding in Front Mission 4 is that none of the missions are repeatable in order to help you grind faster. Now, the game does include up to 10 battle simulations that you can replay as much as you want in between the story missions, but every time you complete each specific battle simulation, you will earn less experience points and money than you did the previous time. My guess is that this was intended to make the gameplay feel longer, which it does, but not necessarily for the right reasons. Perhaps the most important thing to invest your pilot enhancement points into is the link system. This system allows your allies to attack a specific enemy all at once. In most cases, this system will be your key to victory and will also help to end the missions a lot faster. In order for this system to work, each pilot can be linked up to 3 other pilots before going into a mission, and each pilot has a certain amount of link points, which determines how many they can be linked up to and how strong their attacks will be. Most RTS games now do this automatically as long as you're near an ally, but this game is over 20 years old, so I'm not sure if it's entirely fair to judge it for not having this automatically. Now, as far as the story goes, if you're familiar with what most political military anime storylines are like, then you should more or less know what to expect here. I'll say that the story for the entire game is passable to say the least. Not great, but also not terrible. And there are some really good moments spread throughout the game. About half of the dialogue is voiced, while the other half is just text that you have to read. You can skip some of it if you really want to. The game's story is broken up into 2 parts, both following a different group of characters, essentially giving you 2 different story campaigns in one. For one part, you follow Elsa, a French Wanzer pilot who recently joined a group called the Durandal. Her story is a bit of a slow burn, as it focuses more on the politics of the story, as she and her group try uncovering a plot that intends to trick 2 countries into going to war with one another. Elsa and her 5 teammates don't have a lot of firepower at first, but they make up for it by having a group of high-tech mechs for you to control. As for the other part, you follow Daryl and his 2 friends who all decide to leave the military after they find some treasure. Kind of like that time Jeffrey from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air thought he won the lottery and then decided to quit his job on the spot.
In case you hadn't figured it out, I quit! I quit!
In the process of trying to leave the country, Daryl and his friends end up getting mixed up with some guerrilla fighters fighting against a dictator. While I didn't care too much for the guerrilla fighters storyline, I did find these characters to be a little more interesting. It feels a little more personal since the plot is more character driven. Really, the only thing Daryl's story suffers from, in the beginning anyway, is that you start off the game playing as Elsa and have access to some cool weapons. But then you shift over to Daryl, where instead of having a Wanzer on your team with a missile launcher that practically never misses, you instead have a Wanzer with a sniper rifle. The sniper is arguably stronger, but there's always a chance he'll miss. God damn it, why do I even have you around? Anyway, later on, Elsa's group also gets air support, a Wanzer with an EMP backpack to disable enemy units while you focus on another enemy, and a backpack that allows you to fire missiles beyond the support Wanzer's standard range. Daryl's team later on gets a grenade launcher with spread damage. Yay. It actually isn't all that bad. It just has a lower ammo count, and you need to be careful where you aim it. Around the midpoint of the game, you'll also have 5 additional Wanzers to command to make up for these limitations. You can't customize the additional 5 Wanzers or pilots, but I think that could actually be a good thing. You'll most definitely already spend plenty of time customizing each team of 6. Customizing another 5 would be overkill and expensive. This shift between Elsa and Daryl, however, is not a negative. It's actually a positive, and I really do like it gameplay-wise. True, it takes some getting used to, but I think it's really good because it shows how different the 2 are, and it forces us, the players, to change our strategies. What worked for Elsa on one mission may not work for Daryl in another, and vice versa. The game forces you to get a little creative. Around the midpoint of the game is where you may also encounter some spikes in difficulty. Depending on how much or little time spent grinding will determine how much or little you will notice this spike. From my experience playing the game, doing some grinding while also making sure to keep your entire team together will make every mission a lot easier. The moment you start thinking you're Napoleon and think you can split up your team to fight on different parts around the map at the same time is when you'll run into some trouble. Even if you somehow manage to survive, it'll take a lot longer repairing each unit since your repair Wanzer or medic can't be everywhere at once. As for the villains or bosses in the game, I have to say that they're not all that tough. In a way, they're kind of a letdown because you will defeat them several times throughout the game. And every time you beat them, you will fear them less and less. Admittedly, this could be just because I did some grinding before most of the later missions. And I always did my best to keep my team together so they would always focus on one enemy at a time. So this isn't exactly a criticism. It would be like criticizing Mega Man X for having really easy boss fights once you figure out their weaknesses. Speaking of weaknesses, the game also has its own rock, paper, scissors combat system. You can choose to make your Wanzer to be more resistant to ballistics, melee, or fire and explosions. So if you pick ballistics or piercing armor as it's called in the game, then you will be more resistant to bullets, but not as resistant to melee and explosions. Most enemy units follow the same rule as well, and knowing this can make the game a lot easier for yourself. These days, it's not as difficult to find a used copy of Front Mission 4, and they're typically priced at a really low cost. If you don't have a PlayStation 2 or original PlayStation 3 console that can play backwards compatible, there are other games in the series that you can try. Although Front Mission 4 is still locked to the PlayStation 2, Front Mission 1 and 2 have all been remade for current gen consoles and Steam. I haven't played them myself, so I can't comment on them too much. There were also Front Mission games that came out after as well. Front Mission 5, to the best of my knowledge, was only released in Japan. Then there's Front Mission Evolved and Left Alive. I would say to stay away from these last two. Not because they're bad, which they kind of are, but because they are entirely different games compared to Front Mission 4. I personally consider Front Mission 4 to be pretty good. The turn-based combat works extremely well in my opinion, and the story has its high points once it starts picking up. And best of all, it does have a New Game Plus mode, which is always a plus, and I wish more games had New Game Plus modes. I wish practically every game had a New Game Plus mode, especially RPGs and RTS games that typically take a really long time to complete the first time around. Okay, so let me know what your thoughts are for this game. Did you play it back in the day? Do you think it was the best mech-based RPG on the PlayStation 2 that was released in the West? And have you tried any of the other games in the series? Oh, and before I forget, don't forget to subscribe. The best thing about subscribing to my channel now is that you get to see what video a bigger content creator will do in a month or two after they watch my videos first on these 20-year-old games. I suppose if bigger channels are, let's call it, taking inspiration from my work, that it shows I'm doing something right? Oh well, I mean, this is YouTube, so I know it comes with the territory. Obviously anyone can review these games as well, it's not like I own them. I'm just saying, it's kind of sus when no one's really been talking about these 20-year-old games and all of a sudden you see someone post a video about the same game I did about a month or two ago. I'm like, gee, I wonder where you got that idea. A shout out would be nice next time though. Oh well. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.
So